So yesterday what we did some numericals based on Poisson's and Laplace's equations and relationship between electric field and potential. Okay, so the next topic is boundary conditions. But as I do for almost every lecture, I first write the Maxwell's equations, right? So let me again write them. So integral form, and I am writing for which fields? Time varying fields. Point form, Gauss law for electric fields. So what is corresponding to Gauss law for electric fields? Closed surface integral of d vector dot ds vector equal to q enclosed, and del dot d vector equal to rho v, right? Then we have Gauss law for magnetic fields. So what is it? Closed surface integral of b vector dot ds vector equal to 0, and del dot b vector equal to 0. Then what we have? Modified Ampere's law. Closed contour integral of h vector dot dl vector equal to surface integral of j vector plus dabba by dabba t d vector dot ds vector. And what is the point form? Del cross h vector equal to j vector plus dabba by dabba t d vector, right? Then we have Faraday's law. So what is Faraday's law? Closed integral of E vector dot dl vector, line integral, equal to minus dabba by dabba t surface integral of B vector dot ds vector. What is the point for? Del cross E vector equal to minus dabba by dabba t B vector. So these are Maxwell's equations in integral form and point form for what? Time varying fields. Alright. So let's go to the next topic which we have. So it is a very important topic. It appears in the exam for 10 marks. So boundary conditions for dielectric interface. Okay. So first question is, what do you mean by boundary conditions? So very simple example is, if you take a prism and if you make a light incident on it, what happens? Some of the part gets reflected, some parts might get refracted, and here again it gets refracted, right? So we say that this is rarer medium, denser medium, something like that. We'll not go into that jargon. But what basically happens is, if you make a light incident, some part will get refracted, some part will get reflected, right? And what happens, and where does this take place? So if this is medium 1, this is other medium, right? So it happens at the boundaries between the medium. So this is again another boundary, right? So from this we get the topic name as boundary conditions. So we want to check what happens to the electromagnetic wave. So we want to check what happens to the electromagnetic wave when it passes from one medium to the other medium, right? So let's see how to go about this. So there are 4 boundary conditions because we have how many laws? 4 laws. So corresponding to each law we'll have 4 boundary conditions. So let's find the boundary condition corresponding to first Faraday's law. Okay. So what is Faraday's law? Closed line integral of E vector dot dl vector is minus dabba by dabba t surface integral of B vector dot dl vector. So obviously I'll require a boundary. So let's say this is my boundary, and let me draw a rectangle. So I am drawing this rectangle, we'll see in some time. Okay. So Faraday's law में क्या आता है? We have electric field E vector, right? So corresponding to this boundary we can divide the electric field into 2 components. So one is tangential. So let's say this is medium 1, this is medium 2. So this will be ET1, so this will be ET2. This will be normal components, normal as in to the boundary. So this will be EN1 and this will be EN1 prime. So this will be EN2, this will be EN2 prime. And let's say the width of the rectangle is W and its length is L. Okay. Now why we have tangential and normal components is because the electromagnetic wave or the electric field which is made incident on the boundary will be obviously crooked, or it will be at some angle with respect to the normal, right? So we have converted, resolve this into tangential and normal components, right? So why this is tangential? Because this is tangential to the boundary and this component is normal to the boundary. So that is how we get tangential and normal components. Okay. So let's see how to solve about this. So this is again a derivation. So you cannot directly do mathematics. You have to write what are your assumptions. So what we have assumed so far, that you have to write. So what we have said, we have said consider a rectangular loop of dimensions L by W. So that is what we have assumed, right? The dimension is L, length dimension is L, width dimension is W. So that is what you have to write. I am not writing it. So consider a rectangular loop of dimensions L by W placed across the boundary. It is placed across where? Across the boundary. So that's why we are writing placed across the boundary, separating mediums M1 and M2. Why separating? Because this boundary is separating mediums M1 and M2. And having corresponding permittivity, permeability, and conductivity. So permittivity, permeability, and conductivity. So corresponding indicates we are writing for each of the medium. So that also you have to write. I missed that. Next, what we will write? As shown in the figure. So this is very important, as shown in the figure, right? Because if you have missed something, the examiner knows that you have written as shown in the figure. Okay, so it is there in the figure. So that is why this is important. Then we say assume a magnetic flux density B vector having a finite value across the boundary. So I'll write this. Assume a magnetic flux density B vector having a, why we write this I'll tell you in something. Finite value across the boundary, right? Then we apply Faraday's law on this structure. So applying Faraday's law. What is Faraday's law? Closed integral of E vector dot dl vector equal to minus dabba by dabba t surface integral of B vector dot ds vector. So if you see in the formula for Faraday's law, we have B vector. So obviously there should be some B vector present here. So that's why we have assumed that B vector is already present inside that rectangle. So this is what line integral of E vector dot dl vector. So it is summation of or addition of all the dot product of E vector and dl vector. So that is what we have to do. So let's say we start from this point. So we go like this up. So we should end up here. So this is nothing but a sort of KVL. So E dot dl means ET1 into L. So ET1 into L plus EN1 into W plus EN W by 2. This is half. EN1 is only for half of the width, and EN2 into W by 2. Now you are going like this. Here you are going upwards, but for ET2 you are going downwards. So you are in the opposite direction. So minus ET2 into L. Again here you are going in the opposite direction. Minus EN2 prime W by 2 minus EN1 prime W by 2 equal to minus dabba by dabba t. And B will be as it is. And ds will be what? Area of the rectangle. So L into W, right? But what is the case? We are interested only in the boundary, at what is happening at the boundary, I mean. So again we are interested only what is happening at the boundary. So at the boundary what will happen? The width will go to 0, right? So we'll write at the boundary W tends to 0. So which terms will cancel? So W tends to 0, so this will go away, this will go away, this will go away, this will go away, this will also go away. So you have only ET1L minus ET2L equal to nothing but 0. So if you solve that, what will you get? You will get ET1 equal to ET2. What does this mean? It has a very important consequence. It states that the tangential component of the electric field which was incident from medium 1 onto medium 2 will be same. So this we write in the form of sentence as the tangential component of electric field E vector is always continuous at the boundary. So it is always continuous means what? Both are same. That is what is the meaning of always continuous. So this boundary condition is corresponding to what? Faraday's law. Next, let's consider corresponding to Gauss law. So let's take Gauss law and corresponding electric fields. Okay. So what is Gauss law? For electric fields, it is closed surface integral of d vector dot ds vector is q enclosed. Right. So again, let's take a boundary. So this time I'll draw it in this way. And let's take a circular boundary now. So this is my boundary, right? So now instead of, I don't want E vector now. In the previous case, I had a formula E vector. Now I have D vector. So instead of E vector, I'll draw D vector. So if I say, so if I draw it in this way, this is what tangential component. So this is dt1. This will be what? dt2, right? The normal component will be like this. So let's say this is dn1 and this is, sorry, this is dn2 and this is dn1. Okay. So let me take this as medium 2 and this as medium 2. This is medium 1. So this is m1, this is m2. Again we have epsilon 1, mu 1, sigma 1. So this will be epsilon 2, mu 2, sigma 2. Don't worry, if this is medium 1 and this is medium 2, then also it is fine. You will get the same answer. Okay. But just I am finding it simple, so I'll use it in this way. But you can interchange the medium. It is not an issue. Okay. So this is what our assumptions are. So apart from this, let's assume the height is L. This is L. And we have on the surface a surface charge density of rho s. And inside this volume we have rho v as the volume charge. So this is the cylinder you can assume. So we are considering a cylinder of height h having a surface charge density rho s and volume charge density rho v inside the volume or inside the cylinder. So this is you have to write. So that's why I'm saying this. Right? So this is the tangential component, this is the normal component. So what we say? So again, what will we write? We can write consider a cylindrical group of area S and height L placed across boundary separating two mediums M1 and M2. Then again we will write having corresponding permittivity, permeability, conductivity as shown in the figure. So again as shown in the figure if you have missed something. So then inside the cylinder what is there? Inside the cylinder that is volume charge density rho v and surface charge density rho s as shown. Right? Then what we will write? So these are our assumptions. So then we'll apply Gauss law. So by Gauss law for electric field, you will write the full form. What is it? Closed surface integral of d vector dot ds vector equal to q enclosed. Right? Now if you observe, dn2 is going inside. Sorry, this is dn1. dn1 is going inside and dn2 is coming out. Right? So whatever is going inside is coming out. Right? From the other medium. Right? So what we say? Since dn1 is going inside the cylinder from medium 1 and dn2 is going or coming outside the cylinder from medium 2, what will be the net electric displacement? So D is what? Displacement vector. It is also called as displacement vector. That's why we say the net electric displacement. What will it be? It will be the difference between the two. So dn1 minus dn2 times A. Right? Why times A? Because this is what, that is what the formula tells us from Gauss law. So times A. Right? So if you apply in Gauss law, what will it be? Therefore dn1 minus dn2 times A equal to, what is it? Charge enclosed. So what is the charge enclosed? So rho s will be what? I can say rho s. So what is the unit for rho s? Coulombs per meter square into meter square. So into meter square is area A or S as we said, and then plus volume charge. So what is the unit for volume charge? Coulombs per meter cube. So we should multiply by the volume. So volume is area into height. So A into L, right? So then what will we say again? So as we are interested only at the boundary, we will have to squish this cylinder. So if we squish this cylinder, L tends to 0. So at boundary, L tends to 0, right? So therefore dn1 minus dn2 times A. What will happen? This term will go to 0. So you just have rho s into A. Is rho s equal to rho s into A. So A will get cancelled. So therefore dn1 minus dn2 equal to rho s. So this is my second boundary condition, right? So this is second. First was this one, right? So what we say? So when will this? So what we have written, if Et1 is Et2, we are writing tangential component of electric field is always continuous at the boundary. So if I want to say it is continuous at the boundary, so when will this condition be there? If rho s is 0. So what statement we can read? So again you have to write these statements. That's why I am writing them. So now these are normal components. So the normal components of what is D vector? Electric flux density. So the normal components of electric flux density, now they are not always continuous. In this case there was no condition, so they were always continuous. So here you cannot say always, so you will just say are continuous at the boundary when only in the absence of surface charge. So this is the statement for this boundary condition corresponding to Gauss law, right? So what we saw, that Gauss law for electric fields dn1 minus dn2 is rho s. So what is rho s? Electric surface charge, right? So if we take the third boundary condition corresponding to Gauss law for magnetic fields, what we should take? Corresponding to magnetic charge. But as we saw in Gauss law for magnetic fields, there are no isolated magnetic monopoles. So there are no isolated magnetic charges. So they are always in pairs. So they cancel each other, right? So what we will get? So in the same way, we will get bn1 minus bn2 equal to 0. So whatever I have said, there is no need to diagram. You just have to write it, explain to the examiner. So we will get therefore bn1 equal to bn2. So this is our third boundary condition. So what we will write the sentence? The normal component of what is it? B, magnetic flux density. So the normal component of magnetic flux density is, now we can say always because there is no other condition, always continuous at the boundary, right? So then finally last condition is corresponding to Ampere's law, right? So what is Ampere's law now? Just try to recall. It is closed line integral of E vector dot dl vector equal to surface integral of j vector plus dabba by dabba t b vector dot ds vector. This is right. This is it, right? So I forgot to mention why I am drawing in this way only. So why I drew a rectangle and why I drew a cylinder for Gauss law. So if you see the formula for Faraday's law, it is this formula. What is that? dl vector. So you require something on the terms of length. So length is given like this, right? So it should be a 2D diagram. That is what this line indicates. But if you are talking about surface, so for Gauss law, you add a surface, right? So you should define a surface. So this circle defines a surface. So this is a 3D diagram. So that is the reason we draw it in this way. So then corresponding to Ampere's law. So what is the formula for Ampere's law? Again it has dl vector. So again we will not draw a surface. We will draw a rectangle only, right? So again let me take the boundary in this way. If you want you can show the boundary vertical also, right? So again we'll have, let's say ht2 here. So we'll have ht1 here. So this is m1, this is m2. Again we have epsilon 1, mu 1, sigma 1, epsilon 2, mu 2, sigma 2, right? So similar to the surface charge and electric surface charge and volume charge, we'll have what? Js here along the surface, and inside we'll have JV, right? And let's say they are going inside. Why? Because J is a vector, so we are assuming that they are going inside, right? And the length is L, width is W, right? So again, what we'll write? Consider a rectangular loop of dimensions L by W placed across the boundary separating mediums M1 and M2 as shown in the figure, right? And inside the loop we have surface current density and volume current density as shown, right? Then we'll say by Ampere's law. So what is Ampere's law? Closed line integral of H vector dot dl vector. It is what? Equal to I enclosed also I can say, right? So it is I enclosed. So therefore, so if you again apply here, what it will be? If you take this is ST1, right? And here you will come in the opposite direction, so it should be ST1 into L minus ST2 into L. I'm not writing this because anyways you have to write at the boundary W tends to 0. So we'll directly write at boundary W tends to 0. So therefore this is equal to I enclosed. I enclosed will be what? It will be Js into L, because we are only interested at the boundary, right? So at the boundary I'll have only surface current density, will not have JV. So there is Js into L. So what will we get? ST1 minus ST2 equal to Js, right? So this is our fourth boundary condition. So again, what we'll write the sentence here? The tangential component of the magnetic field intensity is continuous at the boundary in the absence of surface current density, right? So these are the four boundary conditions. Okay, so I'll just note them down. So boundary conditions for dielectric interface. What are those? First is ET1 equal to ET2. Then what was it? dN1 minus dN2. This is 2 equal to rho s. Then Bn1 equal to Bn2. Then Ht1 minus Ht2 equal to Js. And if there are no charges, so we'll say in the absence of surface charges, what will it become? Et1 will be equal to Et2. This is same. So there are no surface charges. So rho s is 0. So dN1 equal to dN2. Bn1 equal to Bn2 is as it is. So again no charges. So Js is 0. So Ht1 equal to Ht2. So what we observe? In the absence of surface charges, all the boundary conditions are that they are continuous at the boundary, right? So then next, so this was what? Dielectric interface. So now let's see boundary conditions for dielectric conductor interface. So let's draw this. So this is my M1. So it will be epsilon 1 mu1 sigma 1. So this is what? Dielectric. Then I have M2 epsilon 2 mu2 sigma 2 is what? Since this is a conductor now, so conductivity is infinite. So this is the difference. This is having some sigma 2. It will be not infinite. But since this is a conductor, its conductivity sigma 2 is what? Infinity. So that is the difference here, right? So you can write in this way. See, this is dielectric M1. This is conductor M2. Okay, so next what we have to do? We have to find the boundary conditions corresponding to each law. So actually there is no need to do that. You just consider a simple expression. We have a formula J is sigma E. So this is called as the modified forms of Ohm's law. Actually Ohm's law can be proved from this only. So you just write J is I by A and E is V by D. And R is what? R is rho L by A. So you substitute all this formula, you will get V is IR. So Ohm's law is nothing but cropped up from this. So again, one more reason why I say electromagnetics is the mother of all subjects. Okay. So again, all is cropped up from this only. So this is J equal to sigma E. Right? So what is sigma here? For this conductor it is infinite. Right? So if this is infinite, practically if you think J, the current density cannot be infinite. So practically current density cannot be infinite. So what do we do? So since this cannot be infinite, so electric field, what will be the value of electric field such that this does not become infinite? Because you cannot change this sigma. Sigma is already infinite. So J cannot be infinite practically. So what should be the value of E such that J does not become infinite? Just think basic mathematics. So if you think, it should be 0, because if you have a finite value, let's say 1 also, what will be the multiplication? It will be infinite only. If you take 100 or if you take 2, 3, it will be infinite only. So for that it has to be 0. So infinity into 0 will give a finite value. So what is the electric field in medium 2? Let's say the tangential component, it is 0, right? So, and we have seen from Maxwell's equations, what we have seen, if this term goes to 0, electric field, right, there cannot be magnetic field also. If there is no magnetic field, there cannot be electric field. Otherwise we can see what, there is interdependence of electric and magnetic field. That is the significance of Maxwell's equations, right? So you have seen that significance of Maxwell's equations. Again, I have kept this page with me. There is interdependence of electric and magnetic fields. That is, they are always existing hand in hand. So if electric field is not there, there is no magnetic field. And means if electric field is not there, there is no question of tangential and normal components also. So no electric field. So in short, what I am saying, E does not exist inside a conductor. H does not exist inside a conductor. Right? So what I can say, so whatever are dielectric conditions, Et1 equal to Et2. Then what was it? dN1 minus dN2 is rho s. Then Bn1 equal to Bn2. Then Ht1 minus Ht2 equal to Js. Right? So these are our boundary conditions. But now what we are saying, there are no fields inside the second conductor. Means what? If you are making an electromagnetic wave or electric field incident from this side, since there cannot be any fields inside the conductor, what will happen? They will just reflect back. Right? Means nothing can penetrate this. Nothing will penetrate this. But what will happen in this case? Since this is dielectric, we derived it for dielectric interface. To make an electric field incident like this, it will penetrate. Okay, some part might get reflected, a very small part, depending on the value of sigma 2. Okay, but in case of dielectric conductor, what will happen? It will get reflected. Almost entire thing will be reflected. Nothing will come here. Okay. So what will be the conditions for dielectric conductor interface? Et1 equal to Et2 is 0 inside medium 2, so 0. Then dN2 is again 0 because d is epsilon e, so dN1 is rho s. Then Bn1 again 0 and Ht1 equal to Js. Right? So these are the boundary conditions for dielectric conductor interface. These are the boundary conditions for dielectric interface. Understood? So these are very important topic. This derivation comes in the exam for 10 marks. Either they ask only the electric field boundary conditions. If they ask only electric field boundary conditions, it will be for 5 marks. If they ask only magnetic, it will be for 5 marks. If they ask both, it will be for 10 marks. Right?